I am Christina. I am the lead product designer at Bravo Studio. And today what we'll be going over with is how to get started with how to build an Instagram-like app. The main concept that we're going over in this week's No Code Summer Camp is about front end. So how are you able to create a pixel perfect front end? Whoops, sorry. Nice. Yeah, so everyone can still hear me well? So how do you create a pixel perfect front end with no code? And in terms of Bravo, what we're using are other design tools that designers are already familiar with to create this front end. However, I think most people who are just starting with no code or with Bravo, especially if you're coming in from a designer's point of view, you already have an app screen. You probably already have an app file or a design file with your app design ready, and you're ready to import into Bravo, and all the magic happens and no code does the magic and everything turns to functional working features. But unfortunately, no code it's not so much a wave of a wand, but it's rather another way that you build. So it still does take mastering of and knowledge of the platforms, the tools, but even just general understanding of how no-code tools work in order to turn your design or your database into a fully functional native app. So today, the main thing I'll go over with you guys is how do you turn a design file into something that is compatible with a no-code tool like Bravo? How do you look at a design that you already have and look at it in the point of view of visual development? So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, I see that you guys are in the Figma file. If you have duplicated this Figma file already, what I'm going to show you actually is this part. So this is the Figma file that I first shared with you guys, and it's from the community page of Bravo Studio. And this Figma file is already what we call Bravoized. So often when you first log into Bravo, first sign up for Bravo, you're really excited to create a app project, and then you import whatever Figma file you have on hand and go into Bravo, import it, create a project, look at it on Vision, and it's not exactly what it looks like in your design app. And you're like, what is this? I was promised exactly what it looks like. So there's a few steps. There's a few setup steps that you need to do with your Figma file before you create a project with it in Bravo. And we call it Bravoizing. It's setting up the design file. You can also do it in Adobe XD because we're also compatible with Adobe XD. There's a few setups that you need to do to make your design file readily importable into Bravo, so you can do all the magic with hooking up to real data and functionalities later in Bravo. And another thing I will comment is I don't believe I can see your comments right now, so I'm going to, or let me just check if I can see your comments. Okay, actually, yes, I can see your comments. But what I'm going to do is I will answer any questions at the end and just go through it. And just go through this activity first, but I will try to keep my eyes out on the chat so that in case while we're working on it and you do have a question you're stuck, I can help you. So going back to what I was saying, now, so you have a Figma design and you are ready to Bravorize it. How do you do that? So there are 3 steps, and we're going to go over those with these 3 screens of this Figma. So this Figma file is as if you've designed a app screen and you, oh, can you see it this way? Is this better? Okay, perfect. So let's imagine that you design these screens and you're ready to Bravorize. There are 3 steps of making it compatible for a visual development platform. So maybe those of you who are familiar with building websites or building websites with no-code platforms, it works similarly. You have specific components or elements that does a specific functionality. You have blocks that section off chunks of a web page depending on their behavior, and then you have the navigation. So that's more or less what we're gonna do right now. So the first step is adding Bravo tags. So Bravo tags are unique to Bravo, and what they do is you add these text strings and brackets into the layer names. As you can see, some of these already have them into the layer names of your elements. And when you import it into Bravo, it will turn into either a functional mobile component, or it will turn into a component that will allow you to connect the functionality later. And then the second part is containers. So containers are similar to blocks in websites. So we would section off, we will create containers around parts of the design that have different behaviors. Now that sounds really vague right now. What do you mean by different behaviors? But I will show you with this app page later in just a moment how that's done. So if let's say for example, this one, we want this to slide horizontally, this section. We want this section to stay in place. That's a different behavior. So this is one behavior, this is different behavior. And then this part, we will connect it to data. So it will duplicate itself and populate itself into a long list. That's a third behavior. And how you learn about these is really just through practice, through creating screens with different use cases and different content and functionalities. And the more you create, the more, it does sound cliche, but the more you create, the more you learn and you're familiar, and then you can create an app page, look at it and know exactly where to create the container, know exactly which Bravo tags to add into the layers. Again, it's no code. It's almost like another form of, it's something that you need to master rather than it's just something that you can that does all the work for you. And then the third part is adding navigation links. So that is how you navigate through your apps, and that is done with prototyping links in the design tool itself for you to navigate. So the first thing that we're going to do to start the activity, if you're following along, is you should duplicate this Figma file into your own account, and then see if you can somehow move your screen so that you can follow me and then do this at the same time. So the first part is adding, like I said, adding Bravo tags. Here I've already listed the Bravo tags that I will be using for each of the screens. And then also, like I mentioned before, how you would know which tags to use is through trying out different cases that requires different Bravo tags. But best practice that we'll share is we want to start with the innermost layer first. So let's look at the layer list right now. You can see that the top layer is the page layer. It defines the dimension of the page, of the app page. The second layer, it will be the container layer, and that has not been created. Well, actually, this one has. This one is an example of a container, and it contains this design. So this is the second layer. It's a container layer. And then the third layer and below, and everything that's nested below, are the visual elements. So there are the buttons, the text, the images. That all belongs to the UI elements layers. And as best practice and makes your life easier, you would start often with the tags for the UI elements layers. So for this home screen, so I've listed the tags here. These are for the top layers. This is for the container layer, and this is for the UI elements layer. And what you would do is, so let's say this is a fresh design. It has not added any Bravo components. And you're like, okay, I'm ready to make this into a Bravo project. Then you look at it, you see which Bravo tags you need. So for example, I know this caption, it might be really long or it might be really short. So I know to use the flexo layer, the flexo Bravo tag, which I've already added here, just added like this into the layer name. And what this does is it allows the text box to be flexible depending on how much data it connects later. And then let's say here, this airplane icon, I want it to this page. Yes, Sheila, let me just share it with you right now. Okay. Yeah, so if I know this airplane icon, I want when the user taps it, it shares the image, the link to the image to, it allows the user to share the link to the image. Then I know to use the Bravo tag action share. Here we go. And even though now I have all these tags listed, normally when I work on a app, I have the master list, which is, let's see where it is. It's right here. I have the master list always open to know the different types of tags that are available. Okay, and then so that's done with the innermost layer. Then we go to the second layer, which are the container layers. But before we can put the tags for the container, we would need to create the containers themselves. And so what I mentioned before, how this page has different behaviors, that's how I would section off the page into different containers. So the first part would be the let's say the top bar, the header, that contains the logo and this plus icon. I will create a container around this area, and it contains the visual elements. So what we have to often check is that the container itself contains what's inside it. And in Figma, we use a frame, but in Adobe XD, we create containers in a different way. So you can check out our documentation about how to do that for Adobe XD. So that is one done. Here I've actually already done this section of this part as an example, because, okay, this is a different behavior. Then I have this little line even though it's just a line, it belongs to another container because I know the part that follows below it has a different behavior. Unless I want to include a line into this design that duplicates itself. But for this case, I don't. So I'm going to start just below where the container that contains this line is to create a container for this part. So this is where the post is. Each post goes. And what you have to make sure also is if you see in the layer name that the container contains everything. So here I will select the UI elements and drag it into the frame. And as a way to check if everything is contained, I collapse all the second level layers to make sure that there's no UI layers escaping. And now we have our containers. I want to name them so we can differentiate them. So this one is, let's call it the top bar. These are already named. This one is just. And then I will add the container tags to their respective containers. And the difference between these container tags is behavior. So normally the container is where you dictate how that chunk of the app screen will behave. So this one, the top bar, I will know that it will tell this part to stay on the top of the screen. This one is a horizontal slider, so it will tell this part to slide horizontally. And then these two are just regular containers, just to section off the behaviors. And then the last part is the top level Bravo tags. So I have these refresh page tags, and I will just add them straight to the page name like that. And what these do is they refresh the page. One will refresh the page if you pull down the page, it will refresh. The other one is it will refresh the page every time you enter the page, every time you open the page. So now we have this done. We have the Bravo tag done, the containers done, and the third part is navigation. So I know for between these three screens, the navigation that I want to have is I want that when the app user clicks on this plus button, it opens this screen that allows them to create a new post. And as an example, what I'll show you later of some cool Bravo features that you can add. If I want a user to click on one of these user profile, it will open a story like Instagram does. And this page will be the story. So first page, Bravoized. And normally the workflow of how we create and what we recommend when you create with Bravo is you want to work on one screen at a time. So making sure that the screen is entirely functional before you move on to the next screen. So that's what we're going to do. So you can copy your duplicated Figma app, get the link for it, and we go into Bravo and create a new project with it. Okay, so we have these screens imported. And here I have my phone connected so you can see what it looks like on Bravo Vision. So I'm opening this app right now. And what you'll see is it looks just like our Figma file, which is not very impressive. But we're going to add real data to it now. But what we can already test is, for example, the horizontal slider. So as I'm sliding, this one is already functional. And then the navigation is also already functional. What we're going to add now is the data. So this page actually displays the actual posts from our database. And the database we're going to use today is Airtable. So for Airtable, what I'm going to do later in this activity, if you're following along, is to just share the links with you so you can create the requests with the same table and account that I'm using in this demo right now, because I'm going to delete the account later. So I will share all the API keys and all of that, which you normally should not share with anyone. So what we're going to do is go to Bravo and create our requests. So if you go to data library, new collection, blank requests, name this. You can see I already have one created right here. We'll do another one that is called foodgram 2. And then you can add an optional description. And we start with our requests. So although the first priority of this workshop is about how do you look at the front end, the UI, in a visual development way, it is also very important for you to understand why you should look at them in a visual development way, why you should look at them in the sense of containers and blocks and functional layers, so that you can add the data to it afterwards. So when you're creating each app page, you're going to learn to already think about what is the data that you're going to connect, and how would that data or that function that you or that workflow impact the way that this app functions. So the first request we're going to create is the one that retrieves all the posts from this database. And how we're going to do that is you normally go to the API documentation of whichever database that you're working with. So for Airtable, it's quite easy, and this is why we often use this or recommend this as a beginner database for you to get yourself introduced into into working with multiple parts, not just design, but also the backend, which will be next week's topic. So Airtable has quite a friendly, non-tech friendly API documentation to work with. So what we'll do is we'll find a table, which is called posts, and then we'll find what we want to do. So we want to list the records. So we want to list all the rows of that into our app screen. And then you come on and you can see there's, if you're not familiar with reading API documentation, you'll see all of this and you'll see code. But once you know what you're looking for, it's the same in every API document. So what we're looking for here is an example request right here. And then it tells you that it's a GET request. So we'll go back to our Bravo Studio. We have two open. Interesting. There it is. Go back to our database. And copy the URL exactly as it is. Rename this as we want to list the posts. And then just to explain to those who don't really understand what this URL we're copying and pasting is here, what we're seeing, let me go back to the API documentation. Okay, so what we're seeing here is the URL, the destination of where your database is in the interweb. And then after the question mark, you have filters on or parameters on how you want the data to be displayed. So here, Airtable already gives you some example parameters to work with, and you can keep them or you can not keep them. So what we want to keep is the second part, which is view equals grid view, and that allows us to display these rows exactly as we see it in the grid view. If not, if you don't have that, then the Airtable will just display it randomly. And then the second part is max record equals 3. That's exactly how it is. It means you only want to display 3 records, which we don't. We want to display all of them, so we get rid of that. The next part, let's go back to API documentation. You will actually, what I'm going to do to make your life easier is to copy this URL. So you can copy it into your own requests. The next part, it says that the header of this request needs authorization. So this allows Bravo to enter your API, your Airtable database and get these data. And this is what we need. So the API key is normally a sensitive key that you keep for yourself. But in this case, I'm going to share this with you. And in our Bravo, we will copy this in. Like that. And we press send. Oh no. And sometimes we get an error message. Authorization is required for that URL. Okay, we do have authorization. Let's check if the authorization is copied correctly. Okay, there we go. Sometimes you just need to copy and paste. And now, when you receive this, it means that the request is successful. You can check in the debug, it's A-OK. And we come to our received data. So now Bravo has this data from Airtable, and we're ready to select the data that we want because we don't want all of this. A lot of this is noise. And we select what we want and we connect it to our app screen. So what we do want is we want all the records. So instead, you can choose just one row or you can choose all. We want all of them. Then we want, because our design, we want to connect the image and the caption. So we look for the image URL, which is normally like this. All the rest, you see there's other image URLs, but they're for the thumbnail, so we don't care about that. And then the caption right here. And now we go back to our project. And let's see if I can show you my phone screen at the same time. So that you can see when the data is connected. Okay, so we come into here, we're in data binding mode. This is where we bind data to our UI. We select the collection and the request that we just created, and we find the visual element, so we find our layers. So this is we want to connect the data to the posts, which is this. So first we connect the container. So like I mentioned before, this container sections off this section so that it can have different behavior. And the purpose of this container is now we can connect it to the records, all of the records. And then we go inside the container and we connect each individual element to their individual data path. And now, if I refresh, you'll see that we have our data displayed exactly where we want them to display. And another thing that you can see working is the flexo tag that I put in before on the caption. See that sometimes it's just one line, but other times it's 2 lines. And if a caption is 2 paragraphs, then it will just make the text 2 paragraphs. There we go. So the first page is done. Now let's go to the second page. And then let me know if you guys have any questions by writing in the chat. I am looking at the chat, so I can answer anything that you have. So second page, if we're all good, what we want to do here is we want to create a new post. So what this does is, from an end app user perspective, they upload a photo here, write a caption here, and it appears here. But from a app builder perspective, when you're dealing with database, the backend, and your front end, and Bravo, what this does is you are making this work. The stories, we haven't added the Bravo tags yet. So I will show you later how the story will work after this page. Okay, so going back to this, as an app builder, how you want to see this page is it's essentially a form where the app end user inputs values into these 2 fields. And this is a submit button for them to submit these values into your backend, into your database. And they create a new record or a new row, depending on how your database is structured, a new record in your database. And then since your database is already, or your backend is already connected to this screen, then the screen would automatically display all the data from your database. And this is what we call real data. So without further ado, let's Bravorize this page. So what we mentioned, first we want to add the Bravo tags for the UI elements. First one, what I have is component, a text area, Bravo tag. So this allows this text box, and why I made this text box so big is to allow it to become a editable text box. Second one is input image. Same thing. It turns this rectangle into an image uploader. The third is a submit action. So it turns this text into a submit button. And the last one is a close action. So what this does is it closes this page. So if I click on this, it returns to the home screen. The next one, you see that there's one container. There's only one container needed for this page. And that is because when you have a form, everything about the form, all the input fields and the submit button needs to be in the same container because it is one behavior. You're sending a form in this block. So it should be in the same container. And we'll just name that. For this one, I'll just name a container because there's only one. And then the last part is transition push right. So this just adds a transition animation to the page. So when I click on this, it comes in from the right side instead of the left side, or from down or up. And this one doesn't need any more navigation. So let's go back to our project and update with our Figma. And although right now you don't see any changes after I updated, what has updated are the layers so that you can add and connect functionalities now. So if I show you on my Bravo Vision, we can already test the text area and the image area. So if I click on the plus sign on the top right, you can see the transition works. If I tap on choose a photo, it allows me to upload an image based on gallery or camera. And if I click on write a caption, I can now write a caption. But this is still a prototype. How do we make it fully functional? We connect it to the backend, and that's what we're going to do. So we go back to our data library, and we create a second request. And this request will allow the app user to create a new post. Create new post. We go back to the API documentation and find how we create a new record just by going to the left panel and finding the request that it tells us that you need to create a new record. Go back to Bravo Studio. Okay, how can we count the number of likes on the post? I'll answer that at the end. And I'll just finish this, and then so that we're on the same page with these screens, and then I can answer any questions that's about additional functionalities or additional or any other topics at the end. So this is what you would put in the request URL, making sure that only this one exists. And it tells us that is a post request. So let's go back to Bravo, create a post request. And then same thing, we also need a header. So I will just copy it from my GET request since it already has that. And then it needs an extra thing. It needs a content type. So this is normally with post requests, you need a body for it to work. And it's normally in the form of JSON. And how we find that is you find an example of one body, like here. This is what the response list will look like for a single record. We go back to here, but what we're going to do is, one, we don't need to use link to comment, so I'm going to get rid of that. We're just focusing on the caption and the image for this page. And we want to replace these real values with a variable so that whatever the user inputs into the page, it will replace. And the format of this you can find in tutorials in our documentation help center is this $, curly bracket. Yeah, this one is caption. And then you place this one. You just replace the example values with a variable. And then we come to test values, because whenever you have a variable in your request setup, you need to put test values in order for Bravo to test to see if it works. So same thing, caption and URL. So these are test values. So we'll just put test. And for URL, we actually need a test URL. So here is an example image URL. I've also put it in the chat. And let's see if it works. And here we go. So when you press send, what it did is that Bravo sent a test request to your Airtable to see if what you entered is all correct, and it gives you a response to tell you it's all good. And normally for post requests, since it tested creating a new post, you should have a new post in your database, like so. And if we check our app, since it's connected in real time, here we go. That should also show up in your page already. But now what we need to do is we need to make this page functional. So let's go back to our project. Go to the data binding for this page. Select container, collection, requests. And then just find the UI elements that needs connecting. So the two things that we want to connect is where do we send the photo that the user inputs? Where do we send the text that the user inputs? And we basically connect that with the data path that we just defined in our request selection. So now this one will go here. And then the image will go here. And then we define the response actions. So if it's successful, what will happen? In this case, we want to go back to the home screen so that the user can see their new posts on the home screen, on the screen with the posts. And then if it's an error, you can do a few different things. You can maybe go to link to the support section of your website, of your app's website, or you can refresh so they try again, or you can show an alert where you can go to a page that's an error page. So that is all up to you. So for this one, I'm just going to put try again. And then let's go back. Keep clicking this. Let's go back to our Bravo Vision. And this is how I'm showing you this flow of always checking Bravo Vision. That is normally how I work when I'm building a Bravo project. So you always want to make sure that the end result works. So let's try to add a new post. Let me take a photo of my computer keyboard. Use photo, write a caption. Yay, summer camp. And click upload. Goes to the home screen. And there we go. The create a new post works. Actually, if any of you guys are following along and you're creating this, and you have created this request in your Bravo account, it should actually connect to this database. So I should be able to see, or we should all be able to see all of our posts in this same feed. So try it out if you have been actually following along and creating the requests with me. And then you can see in my database, it created a new request or a new record. And then so the last part, which is just another example of some other cool things that you can do with Bravo, is the story. So how we would do the story would be, so now even though there is, actually there is a play video option, which you can use to create a story functionality. There is a play video Bravo tab. But in this case, another way that we want to take advantage of the no-code space is by using a bunch of different tools. So you might have heard the no-code stack, which is which is just basically a stack of no-code tools that you use to build your final digital ecosystem or product. And we encourage that in the no-code space because the wondrous thing about the no-code space is that when you put them together, when you connect Bravo, which is a no-code app building, with a no-code backend like Airtable or Xano or backend lists, with a no-code front end like Figma, and then you connect other no-code tools like Typeform, which is a no-code form creator, or in this case, what we'll create is a no-code, which is it's a web page, but just like Typeform is a web page, but it's still no-code in that it's a no-code story maker. So there's a bunch out there, but the one I'm using is Google Stories. So here you can create these, in your account, but it will actually act as a story, like how you will watch someone's story on Instagram. And what I will do to make this work is, like we said before, add the tag. And then here, you can connect to your database, but I'm going to put it in manually for you to see here right away. So here what I put, see if I can stretch this. What I put is the URL inside this Bravo tag, so that it will essentially, it's called hard coding the URL into this app page so it works. But then it's not dynamic. You won't be able to change it. Put the close button, close action here. Create a container. See, after the first 2 pages, you're already going pretty fast. And then add a transition animation. So some of you have asked, or we have gotten questions, can I use the prototype animations in Figma? And the thing is, Figma actually doesn't send that through to Bravo. So we actually don't have access to Figma's own animation, but we have our own animation tags, which you can use. And add a link. So this one, I've connected this user's profile circle to the story. We go back to our project, refresh, and then I will show you the end result. Oh yes. I'll share, this is the story. Let's see, let's go back to our Bravo Studio, go back to our QuickTime, refresh our Bravo Vision. And then if I click on the user circle, it formats itself automatically to a mobile phone. So it feels like I'm watching stories within that. And of course, and this is how you build here, like some of the features of Instagram with no code. And of course, what my comment was, Instagram is a huge company. They have so many developers and teams working on this, so they're coding themselves. But for someone who wants to create some sort of like social marketplace, or maybe your app isn't even a social app, but it's something else, but you want to have these features, these photo sharing features, or these stories features, or captions and whatnot. this is how you can easily create them with no code. Yeah, I believe that is the end of this demo. And I hope some of you guys have been able to successfully follow along with me and create these functional pages yourself. If not, and you want to go slower, step by step, of course, we'll send you the recording. And in our Help Center, there is actually a full in-depth tutorial about how to create these screens in addition to these 2 extra screens that I didn't cover because we won't be able to in an hour, which shows how you can connect then the comments that is unique to each post. And do you guys have any questions? One of the questions before is, how can we count the numbers of likes on the posts? So right now, this is, in terms of Airtable, it is not possible yet, but we are coming out very soon. It's on our roadmap with a component that allows you to define the state of the component and connect that to your backend. So basically, to say like, okay, if I click on this icon, it sends something, it sends an action to the backend, and then the backend increases the number, and then you retrieve that number and you display it right next to the icon. And that's how you'll be able to increase the link, increase the likes. Of course, this is just Airtable, and there is a bunch of, I would say, more sophisticated no-code backend tools that you can use to connect to your app that might even be able for you to do that without waiting for this component to come. And this is something that we're exploring as well. But some of the other backend tools that we worked with are no code, which can be part of your no code stack and works with Bravo, is Xano, X8NO, backendless. We've also tried out with Bubble. So it's if you can't want to experiment with those, it's you'll find that you can really discover the unique power of each of these no-code tools and the even more powerful powers of combining these no-code tools together. This recording will be shared. Right now, can we add multiple Airtables to one app page? Right now, short answer, no, because it requires 2 requests for each app page. And currently in Bravo, you can connect 1 request per page, but there are solutions. So one is also on our roadmap that's coming up. We will allow multiple requests per page binding, which is the most straightforward way. The other option is to use tools like Integromat, or I would say Integromat, which is a tool that combines 2 requests into 1 request, and then you can connect that request into 1 Bravo app page. And then the data you'll get is the data from both of these requests. And I believe in our community, which you can find at, let me type in, community.bravostudio.app. There have been already other users who have played around with combining requests in order to put it into 1 request. So feel free to search through and see if you can follow their tutorials if that works for your case. And we also want to release tutorials about that ourselves. And then last one, is it possible to download Bravo code, the one we add to the App Store, and change some stuff that is not yet developed in the future? So the code itself, you are not allowed to download. So for Bravo, what we're focused on is making app building accessible for non-coders, but however, and especially no code. However, we do see the interests of our users about adding code snippets or whatnot. So it is something in our consideration, but for the moment being, what we want to do is be able to just allow our users to connect whatever they want within our platform, to offer the actual functionality within our platform. So if there's a functionality that we don't have right now, that you're like, oh damn, my app could really benefit from that, let us know. And maybe it's something that has been requested and is something that we can push up our roadmap priorities. I'm going to stop sharing. How do we sign up for the next event? I see, Pedro, you are in the attendee. So if you want to answer this. There we go. And then Frankline said, can someone share a Bravo project with a client with different mobile screen size and still get the same kind of display? Yes, that is one of the mission of Bravo, to be able to create just one project and have and create apps that's both in Android and iOS and different screen sizes. So what Bravo does already with your design files is that it automatically formats and resizes the different components in the containers. Again, this is when containers come super in handy, according to the percentage of the app screen that you're designing with. So if you have a phone that is like this, and let's say a container or like an image that's 20% of the screen, what it will do is that in a client's phone that's maybe slightly taller, it will have all the same proportions. The image will be 20% of the screen. But we also have some Bravo tags that allows you to fix the size of your design of that particular container, so that, let's say, everything is 100% of the screen in all the phones, or if to format your UI elements in ways that fits your design. So Sheila asked, is Bravo able to add UI elements where users can tap a section and change it? For example, make the like button turn color. So that is something I commented before, where we are planning to release these component states that are exactly what it is like. So if you press if you have an icon, you have a default state where it's not filled, and then you have an active state where it's filled, and that is able to connect to your backend to know who has clicked what. So that is coming up. But we have already seen some of our users do this in their apps, in their personal apps already. So I think this is something that we will see if we can release a tutorial about soon, or if not, share the links of when users have shared it in our community, because definitely we've seen that already, so it is doable. Our users often find the ways around them more than us, but for sure we'll keep that in mind to share a link about that. Thanks, Gabby. Thanks, Sheila. Okay, so I think if there is no more questions, I will end the webinar, the workshop now. Thanks to hear, Mohammed. I activated Siri. Okay, yes, definitely. So definitely tune in to the future workshops, the upcoming workshops of the NoCode Summer Camp. I'm sure you guys will learn a lot from the other speakers. I've enjoyed the past workshops that were done, and I think we can all learn from these, even me. So thank you guys.